Until recently, I worked as a salesman. My job was to go door to door across the country to convince people that they needed a better mobile phone plan. Nobody does that anymore, but I thought going from door to door would allow me to get a little exercise and meet people. My friends say I'm a little gullible, overly optimistic person, but what happened last year changed me forever. I am no longer naive. My positive personality went out the window, and I will never take on that sort of job again. Let me tell you why. Most people really don't like a door-to-door salesman. This I've come to realize. But thanks to my handicap, I have managed to touch people often. See, my right knee is bent outward and my left leg slightly longer than the other, so I frequently have to shift from foot to foot to keep my balance. It makes children laugh, but over the years, I matured enough to accept my condition. My story takes place in Tulsa. Winter had just arrived, and I frequently had to end my rounds in the dark. I was finishing for the day and decided to pick a large mansion as my last target. A strange woman appeared at the door. She had the usual, could not care less about what you're selling look that I'd grown accustomed to. But when she noticed my handicap, her eyes brightened. She lifted her eyebrows and said, "You're not from here, are you?" I nodded, and she promptly invited me inside. For the record, this almost never happens. Nobody likes a stranger bothering them after a long day in the privacy of their homes. But being of a very optimistic nature, hoping that would allow me to end a cold day with a sale, so I followed her inside. She apologized for the mess and ushered me to the small parlor. She had me sit on a cold leather sofa. I had to wait a good 15 minutes for her to come back, so it gave me enough time to study my new environment. The room was indeed messy. Piles of magazines were scattered around the floor, most of them about fishing and hunting. A thick layer of dust rested on top of the low table in front of me, making the air stuffy. I had to sneeze 2 or 3 times during her absence. When she finally reappeared, she was accompanied by 2 beefy men wearing tuxedos. I froze for a second. What were those men here for? The smile playing at the corner of my lips faded. The 3 of them just stopped and stared at me in silence from the threshold. The tension was palpable. I tried to break it by letting out a nervous laugh, but it did not stir one bit. The woman stood between the 2 men with her arms crossed. I had begun sweating profusely now, and my heart was thumping in my chest. "Hello," I said. "Is something wrong?" Suddenly, the lady snapped her fingers. The 2 broad-shouldered guards walked up to me and grabbed me by the armpits. I had no clue what was happening, so I elevated the tone and threatened to report them to the police. Their response never came. They just dragged me back to the hall, and we followed the creepy woman to the kitchen. It was almost pitch dark in there. All I could discern was an abnormal number of refrigerators, maybe 5 or 6. The 2 men had their hands still firmly wrapped around my arms and seemed to be waiting for instructions. My blood turned to ice and chills ran down my spine. I was hyperventilating and began panting convulsively. Then, without warning, all went black. I lost consciousness. Later that night, I woke up in a dumpster. I had no idea what had happened to me. Not a single clue. I immediately checked my body for injuries, but thank God I was fine. Had the lady decided against proceeding with whatever she had in mind on a whim? Did someone prevent her? Was it my handicap that made her second-guess the actions she was planning to take? I will never know. What was taking place in that house? I will never know, nor do I want to. That's without a doubt the most disturbing thing that ever happened to me. I still don't know what to make of it.